now joining the Raspy Voice Kids. I'm Brandon Phoenix, better known as I Also Hate Pitt. That's how you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram. DaSean thinks that's funny, but that's real talk, man. There's no faking or fronting. And as you just heard me mention, we have DaSean Butler here with us. He is a West Virginia hero, one of the greatest players to ever play basketball at West Virginia University. We welcome you to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it. I appreciate you having me.
So
very much so.
My question for you is, you're a guy from Newark, New Jersey. What did you know about West Virginia University before you were recruited?
Absolutely nothing, to tell you the truth. Besides me watching a couple of the tournament games and then keeping up with them in the Big East. I mean, I started watching college basketball, like actually really paying attention to it. I want to say around my sophomore year of high school, because that's something I really wanted to do, is play basketball in college. So, I would dabble and watch it, but I started to really focus in on it a lot more my sophomore year. And getting the chance to watch West Virginia play my junior year in high school, and then my senior year especially, because that's when I decided I wanted to go. I was kind of taken in by it, mainly because I heard it was nothing to do out there, especially out here where I'm at right now. Everybody's like, yo, you really want to go all the way out there? There's nothing to do. And for me, I was kind of like, that's good. I don't mind not having anything to do. Like, I love basketball. I love to work out. And if I have absolutely nothing to do except focus on basketball in school, that'd be the best thing for me. And that was like one of the big key decisions when they were recruiting me. And then I got a chance to come up to the campus, and then that was like the total opposite. So
what was the total opposite?
Definitely different. Just that whole perspective of it,
that there's nothing to do.
Exactly. It was like far from the case. And then it's
Morgantown has a bit of a reputation. Would you say that's
exactly true? I learned that. I learned that as I got through my freshman year. I had to, it was an adjustment, but it wasn't like one of those adjustments where, it took me a long time to get used to. It was just really quick, and the people made it really easy for me to adjust. So it was just an honor to be able to go to W, to tell you the truth.
Well, E. Gordon Gee, Bobby Huggins, and so many others will tell you that the best resource that we have in the Mountain State is our people. So we're
people, exactly.
And you know that now. You know for a fact. So you spent your time at West Virginia. You made a name for yourself there. 2010, you were all Big East, second team All-American. Should have been first team, but
Yeah.
What are you going to do, right?
Hey, you can't do anything about it now, right?
While you were there, what would you say was your favorite moment as a Mountaineer?
My favorite moment. It's really tough to like even compile a favorite moment. Like, I had so many things happen my senior year, and I think like as far as that year, I thought that was a great year. One of the things I would say is like I had a key moment or a key memory. And I would just say, like, going into transitioning from my junior year into my senior year, like a lot of the guys that we had that were going to be seniors that year, and even the guys that were juniors, because they came in when I came in as freshmen. A lot of guys were redshirted as well. But we put in a ton of time in the weight room and a ton of effort during the summertime. And just to go into that my senior year, and for us to have the year we had, I feel like that was an amazing moment to me in general. Just all those memories and all those things were like compiled. And these are guys I've known for like 4 years, going on 5 years at the time. It was just special to be a part of something like that. And, I would say we got there. It was no one person that just got us there. There weren't two people that just got us there. I just felt like, as a group, we just did an amazing thing. And that's the memory I always hold, like just tons of different memories. And, that's special to me.
Like a collage.
Yeah, just literally like a collage of memories because, from Cam Thurman to Wellington Smith, Joe Mazzulla, like you name it, like Johnny West, and even convincing John Flowers to still to come to WVU after Coach Beilein left, just letting him know, like, we're all in this together and we really still want you to come here and be a part of our team. That was all, like, those are the kind of guys I was around. So, it meant the world to us, like the guys, just like you said, the people are the best resource in West Virginia. Like that kind of rubbed off on all of the guys on our team. And, that's what made our team go, is just that camaraderie,
Yeah. So, and you can tell, even like at the alumni game, you can tell you guys have that. That you're just like
definitely.
family. So you said you had to convince John Flowers to come even after the coaching change. But before the coaching change, how did the coaches, what about the coaching staff convinced you? What about what John Beeline was doing, if anything, convinced you to be a Mountaineer? Besides just the atmosphere, besides getting away from everything, what was it that the coaches presented that made you want to be a Mountaineer?
Well, one, I got a chance to watch them actually play. When I got offered, I didn't really. I watched the game of basketball, but it wasn't. I wasn't like the most studious, guy. So when it came down to that, like a student of the game of that extent, I didn't really pay attention to it that much until my senior year when I saw the style of offense they ran, or them being the 4-out, 1-in kind of. Even then, sometimes at some points being 5-out and playing that way. I just felt that it would be a really good fit. The court would be open, and I saw the guys that he had. I kind of felt like the guys. I wouldn't say they were system guys because all the guys can really shoot and they learned how to play.
Yeah.
And you learn how to play really well, like really good basketball under John Beeline. I kind of felt like I call that like basketball rehab for me because it's like you learn everything you absolutely need to do. You learn how to do a back cut. You learn the importance of why you make bounce passes here versus when you don't make bounce passes at a certain points. You learn so much that when it came time to just go to the games, it was fluid for us to just continuously be consistent and do the right things, and it made it easier for us to play. But me watching them do that my senior year kind of gave me a good feeling going in. The only thing I was really nervous about was trying to figure out if I was going to get playing time. But at the same time, it was just more or less I knew that style of play would fit me because I can play inside, I can play outside, and I felt I could shoot the ball well enough that I would hopefully sooner or later get some playing time.
Well, we're glad you decided. We're glad they convinced you. I want to ask you a question. I asked John Flowers this after the alumni game.
Yeah.
Of all the dudes y'all hoop with, who talks the best trash?
The best trash.
Who talks the best trash?
Man. I would probably say I wouldn't even say it was like good trash talking. I would just say Joe Mazzulla just talked the most trash. Like he would just.
But see, I was going to ask you. That's my next question.
He would do things to bother you. He would just do things to bother you more or less than just constantly talk. He figured out certain people like talking. Like Joe could talk to me and it wouldn't bother me at all. So he would do things to physically bother me, to piss me off, as opposed to he can talk trash to like certain guys and that would be enough. But certain people he knew like had to physically do things to take them out of their game. So like I would say Joe Mazzulla definitely.
But see, that's what I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you who talks the best and who talks the most.
I would say Joe probably talked in comparison. Joe talked the best. Truck talked the most.
Mazzulla talks the best, and Truck talks the most.
The most, yeah. See, like nonstop.
See, John Flowers said DaSean Page talks the best trash, or talks the most trash.
You're talking about from the alumni game aspect of the game. I thought you're talking about the guys that I played
No, it's good either way.
DaSean does not shut up, period. He does not. Everything's a competition with him, too. And it's ridiculous. But at the same time, like, that's his competitive edge, man. I love it. Like, and that's why I enjoy playing in the alumni games so much. Like, I put a social media message out just saying, like, I enjoy playing with my teammates that I got a chance to play with before, but I enjoy really playing with the guys that were before me and definitely the guys that I never got a chance to play with after me. Like, these guys, like, they're really, really, really good basketball players, and they're really, really, like, they're a lot of fun to be around, man. And just having that opportunity to be around them for that, you see all the smiles in everybody's face, and everybody's having a good time, and because it is family. We want to keep it that way.
It's palpable, man. We could feel it in the crowd. That was my first time going to one of those alumni games. I won't miss another one. The thing that's interesting is John Flowers said that he said DaSean talks the most, but Joe Alexander talks the best trash, is what he said.
Really?
He said Joe doesn't say much, but when he comes with it, he comes with it.
When he wants to, he can. And that's the thing. Joe really doesn't talk much, like, especially if he's doing well. He's like, he's one of those dudes, like, he'll just focus on what he has to do. Like, if he just keeps scoring, he's just going to focus on that. He's going to keep doing the same thing. He'll do it like 8 times in a row. He'll score all 8 times. So, like, he's that talented.
I want to know one guy that played before you and one guy that played after you at WVU that you wish you could play with. And just give me one. One before, one after.
All right. Before, I would say I would have loved to probably play play ball with I probably love to play ball with Coach Huggins just to see what that would be like.
Oh,
I heard it
nice
was
choice.
like a really rough back in the day. I heard it was like really
Well,
rough, tough
what else would
basketball.
you expect?
So I would love to see that. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I would love to, like, I enjoy having teammates like that.
And who?
Like, as far as like Joe Mazzulla and those guys, like they were really tough guys. So I enjoy playing ball with guys like that.
And who after?
After, I would love to play with. I would say it'd be a tie between. It'd be a tie between JC and Tariq. I would love to play basketball against them.
Oh man,
Like they compete, bro. They like really go out there and compete.
Next level in T-Rex.
Oh my gosh.
No,
bro.
but you got to pick one,
T-Rex,
man. You can't do no ties. There's no ties here.
All right, so I already played with Tariq, so I'm gonna have to say JC. I haven't played with JC,
right.
like really played with JC. So
I know.
I'll pick JC.
You gotta wait till next year for his alumni game.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta wait till next year to get my opportunity.
All right, so you talking about the alumni game? John Flowers has done such a tremendous job of raising money for communities. This time as the Children's Hospital, doing so much to give back to the state of West Virginia, the people of West Virginia. You're doing the same thing. Tell us, you've got an event coming up here on what is it? It'll be Saturday,
yeah.
August the 5th.
Yes, sir.
What will you be doing there?
All right, so I will be having an event and hosting an event at Playoffs downtown Morgantown.
Yep.
And while I'm there, I'll have some of the guys that were at the alumni game. Some of those guys will be there to hang out. And basically what I'm doing is getting donations from people, whatever I can get for people as far as supplies and things of that nature. So, and I will take those supplies and those donations to purchase more supplies and put it all in the U-Haul truck and then take it down to Mannington, West Virginia, where the people over there just, they just had a flood, running with a flood as of recently. So just taking things to those people because they need them. And it's very important to me to, help the people because that's what the state's about. They're of the people. So
we love that you're about it too, DaSean, for real.
No, of course.
So
this is my home, man.
Well, so many people come and they go, they take, they don't give, and you're here and you're giving, and you're still playing, you're still doing your thing, and we love and respect it. We'll never forget what you gave on the floor. We'll never forget seeing you laying on the floor with Bobby Huggins hugging you. We're very grateful. We really are. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you guys do for me. The support, the love, just is overwhelming. It's over the top, and I'll never, I would never have it any other way. Like I love the state.
Well, thank you for joining the Raspy Voice Kids. Hey man, keep checking for us. We're out there.
Yes sir. Yes sir.
They say we out here, so you got to find us. Make sure people know about us.
I'm just happy to be a friend of the show, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a friend of the show.
We're glad you are, and we'll stay in contact, man.
Yes sir. Yes sir.
All the best.
Always.
We want to welcome you into the Raspy Voice Kids Gold and Blue interviews. Today, our guest is Mike Casazza of CBS and 24/7 Sports. We're super excited to have him because he's been covering West Virginia sports for a long time now. He's a lot of our favorites. We can't wait to get started. So, Mike, again, I want to say that we're very honored that you were willing to do this with us today. We want to thank you for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me. I can't believe you guys are making such a big deal out of this, but it's quite an introduction. I appreciate it.
I know. I could tell, like, when I contacted you that you were like, I don't know why these guys think this is a big deal. For me, I'm a fan of good writing, which nobody's going to say they're a fan of bad writing. But I'm a real, I don't know if you want to say snob, but maybe it is. Maybe I am a snob when it comes to the way that a person writes, especially when it's about something that matters to me. And I'm like most West Virginians. There's few things that matter to me as much as West Virginia sports. And I feel like you get it. And it's not just that you can write about it, but even when you do your videos breaking down the games afterwards, a guy like me who pays close attention and I feel like I understand what I'm watching, you always dig out gems that I feel like somehow I missed. So that's why it's a big deal that we have you on today.
Well, thanks. That's probably the nicest thing that you can say to someone who writes a lot, that if you put time and effort into it, it's nice to have people that, appreciate and digest it. But, I think what you probably don't realize it, but you would be surprised how many people in this profession are fans of bad writing or permit bad writing. I won't name names or anything, but
no. Go ahead. Give some names.
No, I'll take the high road.
Right.
It's a different culture these days, and that's what's kind of a challenge, but an invitation for me right now is like I just switched jobs. I've been employed for a week now by CBS and 24/7 Sports. I spent just shy of 15 years in newspapers. I think actually a little bit more than 15 years now that I think of it, and it's very different to start staring at a blank screen and you can go as long as you want and you can write as short as you want. In a newspaper, it's, get me 800 words, write 20 inches, and you're within the constructs of black and white print. I think nowadays, you live in those constructs in the newspaper, but you thrive outside of them. And something I'm particularly proud of from my time at the Gazette Mail was what we did with our WVU sports blog. And to me, some of the best things I've ever done, regardless of newspaper or blog, was on that blog. It was just fun in a different place. It lets you kind of grow and do some things. And yeah, videos and stuff like that, that's fun. And I think it's kind of where it is now. The challenge, though, is maintain good writing and good content and good delivery. You don't have to write quite as long for the web, but you have to write different things. And more importantly, you really need to have people that come by, which is the same as newspaper. Stimulate subscriptions on a website too. So what you said means a lot. I think people, I'm finding out, kind of agree with that, because otherwise they wouldn't have hired me. So it's like a long time work been put in and has been rewarded, which kind of feels redeeming. And again, you don't think it's a big deal for me to talk to you, but it is, because it means I connected with somebody and they like what I did. And that's always been my goal, whether it's for the one job or the one day that I do my job.
Mike, this is not a lie. We have not asked any other writers to be on the show.
Good. You shouldn't.
No, I mean, we've contacted. Is that? I'm trying to think if that's true now that I said that. But I know that we're not sending out mass emails begging just writers from all the papers to be on our show. So like I said, this is a real, like you said, it's a real connection. We really do respect the work that you do, but we're not the only ones. There are other people who look at what you've done. We respect and appreciate it, especially, like I said, with the connection we have with WVU. Our show is all about WVU and WVU sports, and you of all people understand what it means to people who are from West Virginia. Now, we're from Parkersburg. Where are you from?
I'm from Ohio. I spent most of my early years, I was born in Hamilton, which is basically Cincinnati. I lived in Northeast Ohio for some time.
That explains the Indians and the Cavaliers.
Yeah, which also explains my extraordinary pessimistic attitude when it comes to watching sports. I mean, believe it or not, you might, I don't know, you really won't catch me watching sports too often. I do enough of that.
Yeah. But
the Indians are the one thing that I'm kind of obsessive and also manic about. I watch a lot of Liverpool soccer.
I was just going to say that. I know you're a fan of Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm not conditioned to them crushing my spirit and breaking my heart. The Indians, they do that, but they also kind of bring me back to life every now and then with a World Series run. So that's one thing that I do kind of invest myself in when I'm not invested in the college game. So a nice diversion, also torturous sometimes too. But before I moved to West Virginia for college, I was in Northern Virginia for my, later elementary, middle school, high school years. So I've been around a little bit. I have a whole bunch of different accents. People make fun of the Ohio accent and the Virginia accent and whatever twang Appalachia that I've accrued over the years. So it's a pretty neat cadence, but I think so, at least. But other people tend to laugh at it so often. I kind of have I'm like a linguistic mutt, I guess.
I like when you can't pinpoint where somebody's from. You really mess people up, especially people who think they're good at that kind of thing.
Well, I try.
The question I have for you, though, is, so you get a guy who is from northeastern Ohio who's got the allegiance to the Indians, to the Cavs, to the Browns. I'll
stop you there. I hate the Browns. Ever since they left, I haven't really liked anything they've done since they've come back.
Okay.
And then the Cavaliers, I was just never an NBA fan. I can remember being in town for significant things like Jordan's shot.
Yeah.
And
poor Craig Elo.
I specifically remember Biner's fumble. Things like that stick with me, but it's not because I was following it or whatever. Like the former Browns, sure. Ever since they've come back, it's been a disaster. It's never really clicked with me. And the NBA is just not my thing. I'd be lying to you though if I told you that I was oddly upset that the Cavs won the title. I kind of feel like there was a mercenary aspect to that a little bit, which fine, the city got a title.
It's all mercenary aspect though at this point, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but then you look across the city and a grassroots organization like the Indians, to be within one hit of the World Series, I was nervously watching that game saying, man, I wish this had happened a year earlier, because I honestly think you talk to a lot of Cleveland sports fans, they would much rather have had the Browns than the Indians and then the Cavaliers. Maybe you can switch around the Indians and the Browns. I don't think that's, the uniformity there, but
No, I feel like
I
there's
don't
no
think a lot of
question. You're
I don't
right.
think a lot of people were that pumped about the Indians, about the Cavs winning it. But yeah, to your point, those aren't my favorites of those. If I had to pick NFL teams or NBA teams, I don't think either one of those would be my squad.
So the question I was asking, more than anything else, what I'm really trying to understand is, how did you end up as a Mountaineer? Because you're an alumni, so you're an alumnus, so how did you end up?
I would say I'm not like a Mountaineer like you guys are, or anything like that. It's just that I've been here for a long time. I knew what I wanted to do when I was growing up. Once I got over the fact that being a garbage man wasn't that great, and that you actually did work more than one day a week.
Yes.
I kind of opened my eyes to other things, and I grew up reading the newspapers. That was it for me. If people don't know, the newspapers are the things that are delivered to your doorstep and stuck in your mailbox. If not 5 days a week, maybe 7 days a week. I don't know, but little known fact these days.
Depends
but
on
that's
where
what
you
I
are.
wanted to do. I grew up reading Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon and people like that in the Washington Post, and the Orioles were kind of big, so I'd read the Baltimore papers, and those were fun things for me. And like when the internet came in, and all of a sudden I could see what was happening, like the Cleveland Plain Dealer and all these destinations that you had to be in that town to see what the newspaper was like. I always thought that was fun, so that's what I wanted to do. And I got a job working at a newspaper in my town where I was from that no longer exists. Well, the town exists, the paper doesn't anymore. And I was 16 years old, and I was taking phone calls and formatting agate and writing up box scores, which are trades that you would never get a 16-year-old or a college kid to do these days, because they all want to jump right in and cover a beat. So that's what I wanted to do, though. I knew it. My parents saw it. They were like, hey, if you have an idea what you want to do for school, wherever you want to go. I knew people who went to West Virginia. I visited, and I liked it. With them, there were other schools that I applied to and I got into, but I was 3.5 hours down the road, which is pretty neat. And like the first time I was here, it just felt right. And I've never left. I've had opportunities to leave or whatever, but I met my wife in school, and we've been married for almost 10 years, and she's from the state. And I know a lot of people who aren't inside the borders may go, this sounds kind of like a sad story. I promise you it's not.
It's not sad at all.
I was at a really good newspaper for 10 years in the state that I really think that you would have a hard time finding a job as good as that one if you were doing what I did 10 years ago, or even right now. You're not going to find a newspaper that does a lot of stuff like that. And then like just the friends and family you make. And there is a thing about West Virginians where they kind of like comfort. Maybe they don't leave, but that's not a bad thing necessarily either. You get to meet people for a long time and get to know them and things like that. It kind of works out that way. And like I said, not a sad story. It's not a pretty fun story.
Where's your wife from?
Clay County.
All right. Now, the next question I have is, you said you met your wife in school?
I did, yeah. We both worked the Daily Athenaeum, the campus newspaper.
Who liked who first?
It's funny you say that. I can tell this story. Why not? We were just friends, and I was the person who was like, well, we're just friends, and it was never going to go beyond that. Little did I know that I would be proven wrong. And that is the truth. It's not the other way around, I promise. But
all right. So we're going to have to interview her
exactly
next week.
Remember who made the first move or whatever, but they were definitely friends of ours, mutual friends who were like, you guys are missing it. It's right in front of you. And, they were right.
All right. Well, that's I'm going to have to take your word for it, because I'm doubting she's going to agree to an interview.
There is actually an editorial hanging in the walls of my house from the DA, where I don't know what the impetus was, but it was one of those point counterpoint things. And mine was that there's nothing wrong with a guy and a girl being friends, and hers was friends becoming much more is obvious. So like that is the proof. That's incontrovertible.
That is proof, or that's a good cover, one or the other. I will say this.
Long con, yeah.
All right, so the thing I want to say is we've talked about love and marriage at this point, and we talked about your job, and you were talking about how you worked at a great place, and you said West Virginians like comfort, but the truth is human beings like comfort. And people can act like, they can say otherwise, but most people don't move very far from where they're born. In general, they just don't. You see the stories about the people who do, but in general, people don't move very far from where they're from. My question to you, my brother, there's two of us. We're called the Raspy Voice Kids. There's three brothers. Two of us host the show. My brother Jeremy, he wanted me to ask you this question, and I like this question. Pat White got his break at WVU when Adam Bednarik got hurt, right? And we know these stories in sports where sometimes a star is born by an accident or by misfortune or just by chance. What was it for you? How did you end up in such a prime position? I know that you were a star in school. You may balk at my description of that, but you won lots of accolades. You were at the top of your class. You won awards. How did you end up in your position, graduating from school in the different newspapers where you worked?
Oh, I'm not going to balk at your question. It's 100% accurate. I was an academic star. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I can do that. I worked really hard. I never missed a class. I never got a B. I mean, that's stuff that like my mom and dad really like. So why wouldn't I like it, right? Which, by the way, never missing a class, never getting a B at the #1 party school in America. I'll throw that challenge out for you.
You know what the kids say to that, Mike? What my response right now should be: talk that talk. That's what Charlamagne the guy would say. Talk that talk.
But I walked the walk too, and whatever hallway and down whatever road you want to talk about too. I knew my way around High Street, and I mean, believe me, I was not at a want for fun. I mean, I never left.
And
right?
Grant
so
too, right?
I experienced what the city had to offer, and it was enough to anchor me here. But your question's a good one, and I can actually reciprocate with a good story. I was coming out of school in 2002 to age myself a little bit, and I had been doing side stuff for a Big East football program and an awful basketball program at that time. But I was writing stuff, and
can I guess?
Pardon?
Can I guess what school?
No, I mean it was West Virginia. I was doing the second stuff for home games. I'm a junior or senior in college, and I'm in the press box and I'm covering important football games and coach retires and you do some stories in the next couple of days about what's Don Nehlen's legacy and who are guys who might be hired, and those are big stories that are happening. The whole Gail Catlett fiasco, is he in, is he out?
Oh yeah.
I'll never forget going in one day to get my pay stub at the office. I was off, going home and just hanging out at my house with my roommates, and then a couple hours later going downstairs and seeing the answering machine. What? Hold on. Newspaper, pay stub, and answering machine. I really am dating myself on this podcast.
All in one sentence.
I went down to this answering machine. I had a couple beeps, and it was from my office saying, "Hey, Dan Dockich is out." And I was thinking, well, what? Did I mishear that? So, I mean, it was a crazy time, and I was involved in a lot.
And you're talking about, I left. Just for the people so they understand, Gail Catlett was done at WVU. They hired Dan Dockich, and then like a week later, was it a week or 2 weeks?
It was 8 days.
It was days. He bails on us.
Never signed a contract. So if I'll branch out a little bit here, I guess. I was again. So Catlett was here and gone, and there were health things, and there was some John Hargett stuff, and then you have a coach coming and going. It was a very strange time. That introduced me to weird headlines, and how crazy things happen at West Virginia. Don Nehlen retires. There's a coaching search there. So again, those are kind of nuts and bolts things for beat writers, and I was exposed to it. I was not the beat writer, but I was around good beat writers and columnists at the Dominion Post in Morgantown. So when I left school in 2002, again, I had great grades. I had clips. I had recommendations. I was good to go. The newspaper market was still in that open arms, embracing people period. And I mean, I had a job offer coming out of school. I went down and I visited, and there was a plan for me to do something, work, in the office, maybe do some high school stuff and some major college stuff for a couple of years, and then when the time comes, you can get promoted to a full-time beat writer. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So I was willing to put dues in and go. When I got back, I landed, and a day later, the Dominion Post, which is where I was working, called me and said, hey, the gentleman who covers West Virginia basketball, his name is Dwayne Rankin. He's great. He's one of the biggest influences of my young career. Well, he left and he took a job in Clemson, South Carolina, and they needed someone to cover men's basketball, which at the time was what I was really interested in. And I started my first day covering the team was John Beeline's first day on the job. And you'll never meet a better person than John Beilein in any walk of life, coaching, humanity, whatever. I'd like to think he and I are still close through these days now, even though we don't talk regularly, but if he and I see each other, it's stop everything and talk, because he's that good of a guy, and we got to know each other through some pretty unusual circumstances where he came in. But a lot of times, yeah, you're right. Sometimes there's the Wally Pip Lou Gehrig thing, and you're just the right place at the right time. And that was me. I was ready to go somewhere else, but a better thing opened up for me. I didn't have to wait. I got into beat writing right away. I was a 22-year-old kid doing beat writing for a pretty fun team, a pretty unique offense, and a great coach too. That was a wild experience early on for me.
You know what I remember about John Beilein, when they hired him the most, is that because you're like, I think 3 years older than me. I'm 34. When my dad was so excited about John Hargett, and he kicked John Hargett off the team, and I remember saying to my dad, "This guy better know what he's doing." And he did. He definitely did. And like you said, I don't know John Beilein in any way. I don't have any connection to him. I don't even know people who know him. Mm-hmm. But from everything I've ever observed about John Beilein, I have sensed that he is what he presents himself to be. Genuine, solid, kind, generous, just a good person, to the point where, Rich Rod leaves and I'm devastated. Beilein leaves and I just think the guy has left us in better position than when he got here. He was a class act from start to finish, and I wish him nothing but the best. And
think of it this way. Think of it this way too, to support what you're saying there, and what he meant to people, inside the athletic department or even around the sports scene there. They did the same thing. They both went to Michigan.
Yep.
Similar times. They both fought their buyout.
Yep.
And who won? Rodriguez lost his teeth in his buyout deal, and Beilein had his cut in half. That's really unusual to me. I think historically, if you look back, that's a pretty good indication, I think, of how they conducted themselves upon their exit, and certainly an example for how you should do things. But two guys, same exit, same destination, same business matter as they left, just completely different outcomes, and you wonder why.
So the next question I have for you, my brother sent me these questions, and he's not the most tech-savvy person in the world, so instead of putting in our Google Docs, he decided to text them to me. And for the people watching, the reason this is frustrating is we have so in our podcast, we do these different segments, and one of our segments is called Off My Chest. And one of my Off My Chest segments, his was on Tudor's Biscuit World. Because his stance is that Tudor's isn't that great, and that if it wasn't from West Virginia, most people wouldn't love it. That most people only love it because it's ours, I don't know. How do you feel about Tudor's? See, you got to watch our show, Mike. You got to watch it, man. We got some good stuff, man. I'm telling you, you got to watch it.
I'm not sure I'm interested if that's going to be the take I get.
But here's the thing, man. You got to watch it. You got to watch it.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I might go now.
So he said he might go. Mine, I have one called I Hate Green Text Messages. And my brother, because I need an iMessage just because I don't care about Android versus Apple. I don't have a stake in that war. I just don't like aesthetically. I just don't like the aesthetics of a green text message. My brother gets an Android, and now I get green text messages from him in all of my threads because he likes the specs, all these different things that it can do. But he can't use any of them because he's not tech savvy. I'm like, you just wasted all of my time, and you can't even put this in Google Docs. You send me all of your questions from Mike Casazza in a text message. Anyway, so now I'm scrolling through trying to figure out what he wants me to ask you. Anyway, so I was reading your book. One of the things he said, by the way, so this is the book, Waiting for the Fall. I have read multiple times where people say, if you've not read this book and you love West Virginia, what are you doing? And I thought, yeah, man, I need to read that book. But I don't read a lot of books. You are doing yourself a disservice if you don't. If you love somebody who loves West Virginia and you haven't gotten them that book, you're doing them a disservice. Get Mike Casazza's book, Waiting for the Fall. It is available on Amazon. It is worth whatever it is that you have to pay, whatever time it takes. Get the book. I'm not just saying this because he's on the show. I text my friend, Francesca Jones. I text my brother, my father. I sent it to them. This is for real. Before he was coming on, I sent this to them. You got to get it. It's a great book. It's a great look into a very pivotal time in West Virginia University history. All right. As I was reading this, Mike, one of the things I saw was that you said that you don't root for West Virginia. Like you can't be an active fan because you cover them, which makes sense. And I don't know how you do that. Like, how do you do that? How do you disengage?
Well,
because like I said, told you, I'm not a homer, and I try to be objective, and it just bleeds out sometimes. Even being objective, how do you do it?
There's a good question, to be honest with you, and I get asked it a bunch, and I always struggle with the answer. I don't know if there's an answer that isn't pompous, but like the best thing I tell you is that we just don't do that. There's a professional decorum that you're supposed to seek and maintain, and that was just kind of drilled into me early on. Again, I worked for a bunch of places where I had older influences on me. That's just the way you did it back then. That was before you saw team sites, before you saw podcasts, and I think now the neutrality in media, and you can look at this politically, you can look at this in sports, whatever, it doesn't exist. And I think part of that is that it's just the proliferation of content and the proliferation of platforms. Like what you all are doing is great. 10 years ago, what's a podcast, right? But it's immediate now. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, that's how people promote things and how they get messages out and how they tell stories. You could have read the Serial podcast in a book form or a magazine form 10 years ago. What that did, though, it took the magazine form or the book form and it completely flipped it on its head and it put it into a podcast form. And that's just a major shift. So, again,
and you're talking media, about the Adnan Syed Serial podcast.
Correct. Yeah, not Kerry Washington and people like that. Serial scandal, my bad. But what my point there is that it's people are smarter and they can accomplish more, but also fans are smarter and they have pretty sophisticated palates. They know what they want. So if they want to talk to fans, they're going to go to a fan site. They're going to find .com, and they're not necessarily going to pick up a newspaper because to get like that. But
how do you do it though?
Coverage.
Because you're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. I just came from an era. It sounds weird. I mean, I'm 37, but I came from an era where you just didn't do that. And I grew up on press row and in press boxes, and you get kicked out of those places if you cheer. They still do that now, but you find that a lot of people don't cover games from press boxes or press row anymore. So what I mean though is that there's still a sect of people who are neutral and who are unbiased because that's just what they know. To me, like I have to be able to rip a coach if he does something stupid that I think.
I know lots of fans that can rip a coach though, man.
But I also have to be able to, I don't know, tip my cap to him if he does something right. And that's not going to be received by that coach or that quarterback or that point guard if that person knows that you are for him or against him. So you have to be right down the middle and neutral on things. Yeah. This is a terrible answer to a good question. I understand. And this probably should be edited.
I feel like that's
it's
complex. Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting.
It's just complex. There's no right answer to it, just that you don't do it. How do I do it? To be perfectly honest with you, I've known players and coaches that, it hurts sometimes just because I know them to see, a bad game or a painful loss. Like I will never forget.
Don't say it.
I'll never forget that game that season. And like going in that locker room, and that was really hard. And I don't know if anybody remembers the name Mike Dent.
Yeah. Yes.
He had a really bad game earlier that season against South Florida where a very good center just could not snap the ball backwards. He had a hard time against their defensive line. He was a great guy, and he was fun to talk to, and he played excellent football that season except for one game. And to me, the vindication at the end of that 2000 season would have been he did not cost them the national championship. They were going to go to the national championship if they win that game. That weighed on him during that regular season because, that was at a time where you had to have 0 losses really to get in. And things went crazy that year. Things went absolutely crazy where a one-loss team got as close as you can get without making it. And I saw him after that game, that 2007 game that we're not going to talk about. But after that final game, he was devastated still. And like that sticks with me to this day. I mean, so you have experiences like that where you hate to see people go through it. It's hard, but like, it's like a privilege responsibility thing, and I can't be wearing flying WVs on my shirt. I can't wear a Mountaineers
hat. You have to cover up
I just can't do
that Mountaineer tattoo you have. Different.
No. You won't find those on me. So, again, it's a good question. I get asked all the time. I struggle to answer it, apart from just saying I don't do it. You can't do it. That's not for everybody. You can do that now. People do that now, and they provide fine coverage because, again, the model has shifted so much. I just would never be comfortable doing it because I know on the other side of the microphone, when I'm talking to somebody, that person's looking at me saying, "Is this person my friend or my enemy?" I don't even want them to ask that. I just want them to look at me and say, "Yo, this dude's neutral. He's going to treat me right or wrong, but he's going to treat me, the way I deserve to be treated." So that's the easiest way for me to do it.
I guess what I was saying, so I feel like you answered why more than how. Like, what I'm looking for more than anything, do you look in the mirror and give yourself a pep talk? Like, do you have to talk to yourself before you leave the house? Like, before you sit down at the laptop, do you, have to, is there, something you write? Like, I will not root. I will not let this leak out.
Nah, it's second nature now. Now, if I was covering the Indians, that might be different.
That's longer.
I would probably have a hard time because I watch the games and I have a hard time not screaming at Brian Shaw, things like that. So if I was writing a game story and he comes in and he gives up 3 runs in the 8th inning and they're down by a run all of a sudden, because that's never happened before,
yeah,
I would probably have a hard time holding myself together, as you can probably ascertain right now. So I just think the fact that I've been around here so long and it's kind of like a second nature thing to me now. I've never really gotten engaged in the outcome of a game. Certainly a lot of games are fun and get caught up in it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't help but be gee whiz about a team, what they're doing, and sometimes you can't help but be critical. I mean, that's because that's the story that people want to know. But as far as treating myself to a certain direction, maybe I did before. I don't do that now, though.
The hard thing for me is, as a fan, the thing that's happened to me is when I was a kid, the first game my dad ever took me, the first recollection of WVU football for me is Major Harris. Because like I said, I'm born in '83, so '88, I'm 5 years old. So Major Harris is Superman for me. That's in '89 Clemson Gator Bowl is the first game I remember actually watching and knowing what was going on. The first game we went to was the '93 Miami WVU game. So so we got real spoiled real early with expectations for WVU. And I remember we'd start out with wins, and expectations for teams. And the old time WVU fans would always temper our excitement. Kind of like what you're explaining, your even keeled approach to, the way you cover the games. And I'd always think, what is their problem? Why can't we be excited? Why don't you guys get excited? We're going to go undefeated. And the years have just weighed on me. They've just beat me down to where I don't get quite as excited as I used to, and I have a more even-keeled approach, not because I'm covering them and trying to be objective, but I'm just trying to preserve my cardiovascular system and the ulcers that I have developed over the years.
I think the other part is that you miss some things. If you're really negative, you're going to miss good stories, good plays that need to be reported. And conversely, if you're way too rosy, you're going to miss negative themes and negative statistics that also need to be reported. So I think if you wear a certain outfit, you go to a certain job, if that makes any sense.
It does, which is why I love your writing. What you just said is why I love your writing. I love that column you do, and I cannot remember, I don't know if it has a name, but you write, then you say a theme or a play, and then you show the video. You'll say, notice what K-Ron did right here. Notice what Kaiser did. And then there's a video, and you watch it. I'm like, I didn't even notice that happened on that play. You'll be like, everybody was watching Skyler, but notice what happened out of the backfield. And I'm a guy who feels like I pay pretty close attention to what's actually happening. That was always my favorite. Are we still going to get that from you on CBS and 24/7? Is that possible?
I have to figure out some of the licensing agreements because CBS is a major media corporation. I'm not sure they want. I'm not sure they want people ripping Fox and ESPN clips onto their platforms. They need to figure that out. To be honest with you, though, and that's been the one question I've been asked probably most often is, again, I'm really proud of what we did in our blog over at the Gazette, and I'm not sure in what fashion that'll continue, and I hope it does. But I'm not, confident that's going to be how I left it as it moves forward. So what can I bring with me? I think I brought a bunch of people with me because they're good folks and they want to talk about sports. And I think you can do that with the 24/7 model. They've already done that. It's been pretty exciting for the first week. The content I'm going to get into and try to figure out. There's some things I want to keep. Like Text from Game Day is really, really popular. It's a goofy feature that people
I love it.
Seem to dig. Yeah, so that's not hard for me to do. That's literally everybody else doing the work for me.
Can we do tweets from Game Day? Can we modernize it a little bit? I mean, I know
Yeah,
you're into
someone else
answering
has.
machines and
Yeah,
newspapers.
someone else has that though.
Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
okay.
it's which is kind of maybe a knockoff of my idea from 7 years ago, but whatever, he can do that. That's fine. Uh, um, but to be honest with you, the long form model of that, and you're talking like, sometimes 25 clips maybe, and 5,000 words. Uh, I don't know that people are gonna be too excited about me spending my time doing that now that sign my checks and want me to do like quantity as well as quality.
Yeah,
Like, so there's different things there. So I think maybe instead of, I haven't made up my mind to this, and I'm talking out loud right now, so I'm not, or thinking out loud, I should say. So you guys are getting the exclusive here, I guess. I don't know, but it's come around in my head. Like, do I do that whole thing again where I do the good and the bad of West Virginia against Virginia Tech, and I take up, I mean, a lot more time than I'm comfortable admitting doing it, or as we're talking about, do you get a little bit more granular and find something that's really important, and you have a conversation about, hey, West Virginia was 7 for 9 on third down, and that's
that
maybe how
sounds
they
right
won
to
the
me.
game. Let's take a look at it. Or, you know what? They had 0 tackles for a loss against Virginia Tech's running game. Let's see what
Incorrect.
happened at the line of scrimmage. I think
Incorrect,
there's
Mike.
ways to look at it. Just tilt your head a little bit. Maybe that's what I want to do. Like, I'm in a new place with a new start, and I don't want to bring all the same stuff with me, but I think I can keep some stuff, and maybe just present it a little bit differently.
That sounds good to us. I do want to ask you. We have 3 questions that we like to ask our guests. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. This is the end of the show. All right. So before we go, because again, Mike Casazza has been so gracious to be with us. We've enjoyed our time with him. He's answered a lot of great questions for us. Well, actually, I was going to end the show, but I do want to ask you this because you were there, and all of us were, as Mountaineer fans, we were here for it too. The Rich Rodriguez thing,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody hates Rich Rodriguez in the state of West Virginia. Almost everybody. I'm one of the few people who I don't hate Rich Rodriguez. I was very disappointed. I was depressed that he left for a lot of reasons. There were so many implications to the fact that he left us. I quickly decided that I felt like it was the school administration's fault more than his. Now, that, of course, is based purely on my outside perspective. You, being closer to the information than the rest of us, what was your perspective?
I think they if you ever walk down the street and you're holding your hands with your wife or your girlfriend, and you come up on like a power pole, right?
Okay.
And you got to let go at some point.
Oh.
And you kind of come to that point, like, am I gonna hold on and we're gonna split the pole, or are we gonna like let go, or whatever you do? And then on the other side, you have that awkward second where, like, well, do I hold her hand again, or do I just keep on going because we got to get to dinner, right? One of the two. It's just like a weird thing that we all go through. But I think that you saw 2 people that were holding hands, the football team and the athletic department, and they were walking, and they came across the light pole, and who was going to let go, and then what were they going to do after it? Well, they continually hit that obstacle, and there'd be a break, and they would get back together again. And I really think that between flirtations with other jobs, contract negotiations, plural, not signing your contract for like an entire year, that it just became a thing where, like, how many times are we going to do this? Like, and eventually, I think enough was enough. And the university just said, we've done a lot here. We've done more than we're probably comfortable doing, so we're not comfortable committing to doing more. Like, we just have this contract. You're this close to a national championship. Enough's enough. Like, you're in or you're out. And I think that people on Rodriguez's team, and maybe even himself, continue to leverage the possibility he could take his offense and his popularity and his ingenuity somewhere else and be very good. And I think the university said, do it or don't. And I think feelings were hurt on both sides. And then as they approached that one light pole, they got out fast and never got back together again. And they went in different directions. It was just a continuous thing. Like, I don't even know if you remember this, but like, they were about to play a huge regular season game in 2000 and maybe 6. It might have been before the Louisville game. I'm not sure about the specifics, but I definitely remember that North Carolina still had a coach, and like, they were maybe changing their coach at the end of the season. And someone asked him on a conference call, would you be interested in the North Carolina job? And West Virginia is undefeated. I think they're going into a huge game, and he says maybe. You never say never. how can you say that? But like that was a pointed thing. That was an answer that, didn't really mean anything because he didn't say, yeah, I'm in, but like it meant something to people who
It,
he was going to have to deal with
yeah.
at the end of the year. Like, listen, I have offense will travel. Like, I mean, people forget you were not doing the things that he was doing back then. It's very common now, but he was really one of the people who generated and proliferated that offense. But I just think the constant flirtations, threats, dalliances, whatever you want to say, those are strong words and maybe silly words, but I just think it got to be the point where the university was like, enough's enough. Like, this is as far as we're willing to go, and you're with us, or come and collect your valuables from your office, and we'll see you down the road.
Do you think that the university was doing enough to guarantee the success of the program for the future?
No, again, no, because it's today it's very different. Where if you think about this, let me dovetail two things we talked about. But right now you talk about what's the next thing in facilities, and you get it done. Well, what's the next thing in facilities, and then you get that done. And you really don't want to be a 2017 football program. You want to be like a 2027 football program. You want to have, the great technology, and you want to have the putt in your team facility, and you want to have the masseuse that comes by every morning before your kids go to class. You want to have all those things so no one else is ahead of you. But like, I think West Virginia was maintaining and staying abreast of everything and not getting ahead. But they were also stretched financially. Like they were not making a lot of money in the Big East, even at their peak of success. So they just didn't have a whole lot they could do. Whereas, Rich had been at Clemson, which is pretty successful, and had some money and could do some things. Had won a national championship, years and years and years before he was there. But like there was a culture there, and there were things that were in place, and they were obviously very good one year. And I think he saw and he tasted what big time football was like. And I don't think there was anything wrong with him aspiring and pushing for those things. And I don't think there was anything wrong with the university kind of drawing a line saying we could only go this far. They knew their bank account, they knew their ways and means.
Mm-hmm.
But he also had some kind of outrageous demands that were, if I remember correctly, were like illegal. Like you couldn't do some of the things that he wanted to do. But I think there could have been a better reception to what he wanted, because if he's here right now, the school can accommodate so many of his things. And if he had been here with this administration, this president, and even before with Jim Clements and Oliver Luck, I really think it's much more harmonious. So I think if you do look back, just to answer your question, they certainly could have done more to accommodate him, because they had a star who was their guy, and he got away.
Yeah, it seems like a common theme for West Virginia when we have. It's unfortunate. It seems like we don't always maximize what we have, but what's done is done, and. The thing I want to ask you, the last thing I'm going to ask you before we get to the hard-hitting questions, the real hard-hitting questions. Do you believe Rich Rodriguez threw that game that will not be mentioned against that team whose name we will never capitalize, who does not deserve to be a proper noun, so we always use a lowercase p? Mm-hmm. Do you believe he threw that game in 2007?
I don't think he threw the game. I don't think he threw the ball. I think he threw the ball too much that night. I just think
he threw it too much that night?
I just remember that Pat White had a bad hand and was throwing the ball when he was in the game. I remember Jarrett Brown, who was the backup and very good, was that. But I don't know. Maybe that's revisionist history. I just know that they ran, honestly 4 or 5 plays, and they were very good at those 4 or 5 plays. But Pitt had it absolutely scattered out. Didn't miss any tackles. Just read the read and the dive and the give exceptionally well that game. I've talked to Paul Rhodes, who's the defensive coordinator, at length about that in the past, actually, including in the book too.
Yeah,
about just how well they tackled that night. And I think that Pitt Pitt played the game.
Can you stop saying that word, please?
The Panthers played the game in a phone booth. They wanted to shrink the field and make it really hard for them. They wanted to shorten the game and give the offense in West Virginia side fewer chances. And then as those walls closed in, West Virginia puckered. I mean, that's the best way to put it. They realized that they were in it for real, and this was not going to be as easy as a 28-point spread indicated. And then as that was happening, the team from up north, they started frothing, and they were believing in it. And Shady McCoy just started chopping at that defense until they finally split. I think that takes far too much credit from the defense and the strategic offense that Dave Wannstedt's team played that night. I think that you could sit down and make an argument that that would supply ammunition for that ludicrous, frankly, theory that he threw the game. There's variables out there and there's rumors out there that make it sound, compelling. I just can't believe it's realistic.
It's
all
so
he
stupid.
stood to gain by winning that game would offset whatever he might have owed. Are we really talking about this? I can't.
No.
About
Listen,
this.
Mike, this is what makes you a great.
I just think it. I mean, I've been asked about it a bunch of the years, and I'm always like, "Are you kidding?" I just never heard anything that
Mike,
says, "Well, that's a good point."
Mike, this is what makes you a great writer and a terrible Mountaineer fan, which is why you're not a Mountaineer fan. All you had to say was no. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, can we do that one again? Let's take it again. I'll do it. No.
No.
I mean, I've heard it though, and I think I told you this.
I heard it too, and I don't agree, just like you don't agree. I just wanted you to tell, because you are the most, probably you've been the closest to the program of almost anyone, if not anyone, and you're the most erudite, as you just displayed. All I needed you to tell the people is that this, as you said, is a ludicrous, a ridiculous idea. Rich Rodriguez, no matter if you want to call him Rich Fraud, go ahead. If you want to call him any other terrible name that you want to call him that. Quit saying he threw the game. He had nothing to gain from throwing the game. He didn't throw the game. He blew the game. He choked. Whatever you want to say, fine. But he didn't throw the game. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, to the important questions, Mike.
All right.
What is the best flavor of Pop-Tart?
Oh man, you're asking the wrong guy. I really don't eat sweets, and that's a pretty sweet thing. And my breakfast is like, it's kind of tame.
Okay.
Man, I'm trying to think of the one that we had some. God, what were they? I don't want to say like apple cinnamon because that's pretty tame, right?
All right, we can skip it. Let's skip. Skip.
All right.
Let's do a better one. Do you do French fries? Do you eat French fries?
Oh yeah.
Who's got the best French fries?
Fishbowl, Morgantown.
Okay, so for general fast food for the general public, who's got the best besides Fishbowl and Morgantown? Shout to Fishbowl and Morgantown, by the way.
Well, that's McDonald's. I mean, that's a pretty generic answer, but like
it's obvious.
Who's touching that?
That's right.
Who's touching that?
All right, and then Lion King or Toy Story?
Toy Story, because that Lion King anecdote that Rich recited through the years has just ruined that play for me. Someone handed me free tickets to go see it on Broadway once, and I said no, thank you.
That's right.
I just can't do it.
So there you have it. The elite of the elite, Mike Casazza. He has joined the Raspy Voice Kids. Don't forget, get his book, Waiting for the Fall. We are so grateful that he took some time from his very busy day. We are, 5 more Saturdays? Is it 5 more now until football starts?
Maybe.
Sunday, September 3rd, West Virginia gets the Hokies. We will make them the Chokies. Mike will be neutral throughout it. He's just going to cover it. There will be no cheering from him. But make sure you follow him. Make sure you read him. Find a way to subscribe to CBS and 24/7 Sports. He's worth the read. He never lets you down. He will never disappoint. Thank you again, Mike, for joining us today.
Hey, by the way, unfrosted blueberry, I'm thinking. That's my Pop-Tart because I'm a big fan of like the unfrosted blueberry donut, and I know they have that Pop-Tart.
Yeah, you might as well just not have said that. But all right.
No?
Thank you for
Told you I'm not in the sweets.
Thank you for sharing. You're now tuned into the Raspy Voice Kids. I'm Brandon Phoenix. You know me better as I also hate Pitt if you're on Twitter, Instagram, maybe even on Facebook. We are joined today by KJ Myers. You probably know him as number 19, the receiver for West Virginia, fifth-year senior when he graduated. That is 2011 to the year 2015. He is now representing low-life culture. He has designed, he has created, and he is the ambassador for this entire movement. KJ, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate it.
Now, one of the things I'd like to ask is, you're from Jacksonville, Florida, right?
Correct.
So how was it that you decided to become a Mountaineer?
Well, after my 11th grade football season, I was transferring over to baseball season. So I was headed to baseball practice, and my football coach called me saying, come to my office quick. I got West Virginia coach on the line. He wants to offer you a full ride scholarship. Now, this was my first scholarship offer, so that was a big thing for me that someone actually believed in me and took that chance. So Another thing is Noel Devine, one of the greatest running backs to come through West Virginia.
Now,
Me and him played in Pop Warner a long time ago, down when we were both living in Fort Myers, Florida. So that's the only reason why I started even watching West Virginia football, honestly, while I was in high school, because he was still playing.
yeah,
And then,
he was the kind of guy you couldn't take your eyes off of. So if you played with him, I'm sure you felt the same way.
yeah, definitely. I definitely appreciated his game way more than a lot of other people.
We've been trying to get him on the show, so maybe you're the connection. Maybe you can make that happen for us.
Yeah, I can definitely make that happen.
All right, we appreciate you. So you're coming from Jacksonville, a big city compared to anything in the state of West Virginia. When you get to campus, even just for a visit, was it culture shock for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was culture shock. Just coming from the biggest city landmass wise in Florida and one of the biggest cities just in the United States to go into a small college town in Morgantown, West Virginia was a big culture shock. But I'm very adventurous and I love trying new things and just learning new things, new cultures, etc. So it was nice and I was happy to get away from my friends and family and my parents who I've been with all my life and just to get out on my own and just experience life on my own and make my own decisions. So overall, it was definitely a great experience for me.
How long did it take before somebody got you a pepperoni roll?
Well, actually, my first roommate is named Connor Alia. We went and had, I think his parents brought it to us when we were moving in to Pierpont. And they kept telling me just everything about this pepperoni roll, how it's just so great. And that's what everyone loves here. So, I mean, it didn't take long at all.
Did you love it?
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice, actually. Probably could have had more cheese in there.
Hey, man, have you been to Parkersburg before?
No, haven't.
So if you're back in West Virginia and you end up in Parkersburg, the pizza place on Dudley Avenue, you cannot beat their pepperoni rolls. You cannot beat their garlic rolls. You can't beat their pizza. It's a little plug. I don't have any affiliation with them, but I'm telling you, you will not worry. You will never complain about not having enough cheese.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to check it out if I ever make it to Parkersburg.
All right, man, check them out. So you wanted to get away from your friends and your family, not because you didn't like them, but just autonomy. You wanted that freedom to be an adult. Was it a complete smooth transition?
Yeah, at first, actually, it was a great transition. I mean, first year, 2011, we went to the Orange Bowl. We beat Clemson. That was amazing. But what a lot of people don't know, right after that, me not knowing anything, we get back to West Virginia to start our 2012 season, and like majority of the coaching staff is gone, especially after Bill Stewart died and then Hogerson took over. He brought in his staff. And so a lot of coaches that either came and sat down in my home and met my parents were just gone. The offensive system that I was brought into to be a part of completely changed. A lot of things was completely changed. So that was a big wake-up call, and one of the things that also played a toll on me in 2013 when I hit the lowest point of my life.
So what all was involved with hitting that low point?
Really, football was the big main thing because it was a roller coaster. And honestly, just being in that system, you know, a lot of people talk about politics and all this stuff when you're in high school, but of course I wasn't thinking nothing of it then, and a lot of people don't think nothing of it at all until they actually go through it or it actually happens to them. So really, college football was a big toll. Just the lifestyle, I wasn't really happy with the lifestyle there, and then school on top of that. Of course, that's another mandatory thing. You can't just stop that. And
No, no, you got to go to school.
Right, but I mean, you're not wanting to because you really wasn't in the mood to really doing anything, honestly. And it got to that point. And
like a depression.
Yeah, pretty much. And me, I never been in that point ever in my life, ever. It was really lack of worries before 2013, honestly. Like, I didn't even.
You didn't have anything to worry about.
Right. I didn't have anything to worry about. Didn't at all.
So then when you did, how'd you pull yourself out of that?
Well, that's when the idea came to me, actually. And at first, when low life came to me, it was just low life lack of worries. It wasn't no life acronym. There wasn't no red balloon or anything. So I was literally just refocusing every day and telling myself and reminding myself lack of worries, just telling myself lack of worries, working on my mentality because my mentality was off during that year. My mentality and my body language was off. So lack of worries is the mentality, which is the first thing I had to master. So after I finally mastered the mentality, that's when I figured out the acronym for life, which is living in fearless efforts, which is the fearless actions that follows after you get your mentality right. And then after I got my actions, I mastered the actions and got my body language back right. That's when the red balloon came to mind. And red symbolizing love and the balloon symbolizing letting go. And I was letting go of anything that led me to get into that low point that I reached and letting go of any worries, fears, doubts, insecurities, anything in the past or anything that was just slowing down my life process, just letting it go.
So how did your teammates respond when you came up with something that, because obviously there were people I'm sure who could tell that things weren't quite right, that you weren't the same KJ. How
Yeah,
did your
definitely.
teammates, how did your friends and your family respond when they saw what that mentality, that low life mentality had done for you?
Well, it started to buy in. It started to buy into the concept and they got more curious and wanted to know about more about it and they cared about me a lot. So they seen how passionate I was about it and how much it meant to me and how much it actually really helped me, like really helped me. And they started living that way as well.
So it's, they say that oftentimes where you're from or your family, they sometimes are the last ones to buy in because to them you're just KJ Myers. You're not the CEO of anything, right?
Right. They're not thinking that big of it or anything.
Yeah. But to have your friends, your family, to have your teammates buy in, that had to be pretty special for you.
It definitely was special. I mean, I reminisce and think back to the time when I first got the first Low Life Lack of Words bands. Everybody wanted one. Everyone around me, my teammates, my family, friends, they wanted one. So that was actually the first product I had. But mind you, being a college football player or being in the NCAA, you can't own your own business. You can't have your own business. So it's like the NCAA, they just expect all of us to just go play professionally or something like that. So the first 2 years that I thought of this, I couldn't sell any product at all.
So here you are with good old American ingenuity, hard work,
Yeah.
dedication, and you cannot make a profit. You can't.
Can't make a profit.
That's frustrating, huh?
Oh, definitely frustrating. Definitely frustrating. And especially after seeing after I finally was able to sell the huge jump in just the analytics on the numbers. And I'm like, dang, I missed out 2 years of this. But that's fine. You know, they say the first 2 years of a business is really a lot of trial and error and just doing a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
free. Just what I did. Everything was for free, which is what I still do. A lot of stuff for free because before I'm gone, before I die or anything, I just want a lot of people to really apply this to their lifestyle and add this into whatever purpose they needed in their lives.
But we love it, man. You've built a brand. We love it because you did something positive for people. And
Yeah.
not a lot of people can say that. Even when people make a lot of money or are successful in some other facet of life, they can't say that they brought positivity to people. You're able to do both.
Yeah.
And that's, we respect it. And as Mountaineer fans, every time I see a red balloon, I connected to WVU. I remember KJ Myers is a Mountaineer, and KJ, because once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer.
Always.
And KJ Myers is now got Markel Fultz, the #1 draft pick, wearing a low life band. And I see it on Instagram. I see it on ESPN. I see it not just with him, but with all these other athletes, high profile people. I'm sure you can list who was the guy when they got a low life band or they asked you for one or they had one you saw somewhere. You were like, I can't believe they're wearing my brand.
Well, it had to be Markel Fultz. I
That was
mean,
#1 for
because
you.
yeah, because it's crazy how it just all happened I don't know if you know Terrence Ferguson, but he went first round to Oklahoma City, to the Thunder.
Yeah.
So he's been a big brand ambassador for a while. Like straight out of high school, he went to play professionally in Adelaide, Australia for the Adelaide 36ers. And then he came back over here this previous year, and went first round to OKC Thunder. When they were both coming out of high school, they both played in the USA game together, and they got like a video of them doing a handshake, and then Terrence Ferguson being like low life. They did the L's with their hands and stuff. It's neat. So that's where it all started at, and now just Markelle just stuck with it, and that's what I really appreciate, when people just stay low, for real, because a lot of people change up. That's.
No, the funny thing is, we talk about staying low. When I first saw low life, I was thinking, what are these guys doing, calling themselves low lives?
Yeah.
We don't need that. And of course, I had to be educated. So I'm glad. It's good to see not Terrence Ferguson doing it, to see Markelle doing it, and to know that you are the generator. That we love that. Do you have anything that you would like for our listeners to see, or can you tell us where they can purchase their low life? If they want an armband, if they want a t-shirt, you got the sweatshirt on, looking fresh to death. Where can somebody get fly like you?
Well, yeah, the website is lowlifeculture.com. There's also an app for this lifestyle, and if you go to your app store and you type in Low Life Culture, and that's the space between each word. Low Life Culture,
separate words?
Yeah, separate words. You type that in, you download the app, and once you download it, make sure you turn on your notifications, because that's the real big thing on the app, is just the random notifications, because you never know when you could need just some positivity or inspiration or motivation. And the Instagram account is THE Low Life Culture, and the Twitter is LL Culture. The Snapchat is Low Life Culture. And you can find me on social media. I am Low Life KJ.
Low Life KJ. I am Low Life KJ. You got to find him. Look, you got the bands up. So make sure you go out and get those. Support a former Mountaineer. Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer. Spreading positivity, good vibes. So if you want to be a part of the movement, you can be a part of the movement. More than anything, though, we're just grateful that you're willing to come on and share your experience with us. Talk about what it was like to be a Mountaineer, even the hard parts. A lot of times we hear the glory, we don't hear the hard parts. So we appreciate you talking to us about what that kind of struggle is, and thank you for giving us your time, KJ.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate the platform.
Hey, man. Hey, and make sure you stay checking up on the Raspy Voice kids, man. We're trying to live the same way.
I see you guys. I will.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Hello.
Thanks for listening and watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Check the links in the description for all our other media outlets.
And no matter what you do, no matter what you heard, no matter what we said, don't forget, we also hate Pitt.